Welcome to another episode of learning the MultiversX JavaScript SDK series. In this one, we'll check how to create an NFT with a couple of scripts. As usual, let's start by creating a separate file for it. We will also reuse some code from previous work, so make sure you've watched previous videos. We will need to run 3 functions, so let's prepare our general init function to differentiate which one should run. It is similar to the one used in the smart contract interactions video. To create an NFT on the MultiversX blockchain, you must generate a token, which is a collection for your NFTs. Then, you need to set proper roles for it. Finally, make the NFT, where you provide URLs for your assets and other data. We will return to this later. For now, let's define all required functions and see what we can move to some helpers to avoid repeating the same code. Each operation will require the same factory instance. We will use only different methods, so it is a good idea to keep it in a separate helper called getTransactionFactory. We need to use transactions_factory config, where we define the chain ID as D as the devnet. Then, we need to use a special factory for token operations called the Token Management Transactions Factory. Of course, all are imported from MultiversX SDK. Now, with a factory, we can use a method called createTransaction for issuing non-fungible. It is exactly what we want to do. We want to issue a non-fungible token that will be our NFT collection. You can then provide all necessary data, such as token properties, name, and ticker. Each operation will also require the same processing, so we will also put it in a separate helper function. What we need to do is the same as in previous videos. We use our signer, user, and computer to prepare, sign, and broadcast the transaction. After broadcasting the transaction, we want to print some outcome data. To do that, we need to wait for the transaction finalization on the chain. We will use the same for all transactions. To keep the code concise, we can move the code to a separate helper function called parseOutcome. We use the transaction watcher to wait for the transaction completion. It takes the API network provider, which we import from our setup file. Check the first video for more information on that topic. We also use the transactions converter and the token management transactions outcome parser to simplify parsing the data from the outcome. Remember, all such tools are imported from the MultiversX SDK library. Okay, it looks like we have everything needed for our first function, but we also have much of the code we will reuse in the remaining two functions. Let's move to the setSpecialRoles for NFT function. We use the same factory here, but a different method with a long name. Create transaction for setting special role on non-fungible token. You must pass the token identifier here and all the roles you want to configure. Read more about the roles in the docs. We won't focus on that here. What is important is that add role NFT create is mandatory here. Otherwise, we won't be able to continue. We also use the same processing helper function here. The create NFT function configuration is similar. We use the same factory type and then a different method, which is, in this case, the create transaction for creating NFT. It takes a couple of important data parameters. Attributes can, in theory, be anything, but for NFTs, it is good to keep the structure as you see in the video. This is because all MultiversX services like Explorer or X Spotlight will rely on it. Then you can also provide URLs to your assets, such as images or JSON files hosted using IPFS. You can also provide a royalties amount. I know it can be overwhelming initially, but remember that you will find working examples in the GitHub repository. In operations, we use the collection name, ticker, and ID. So let's provide them as variables. You can provide any name and ticker. The ID will be generated. It is the ticker and random hash. Okay, let's add the same processing helper function as in the two previous functions. I think we have all the necessary configurations. We can try to test it now. As you can see, when I run the script without providing the function name that I want to trigger, I get the message that the function is not found. So let's provide one. The order of the functions is important here. First, we issue, then we configure roles, and then we create the NFT. Something is wrong with our configuration. Let's fix it. The process transaction function takes the transaction argument, but I forgot to add it. Yes, and the type argument is also missing. Finally, now it works. We are issuing our collection. You see some information from the SDK about the automatically added burn for all role, which is helpful because it allows every owner to burn their own NFT from that collection. After the issuance transaction is complete, you will get the collection ID. We can copy it and paste it into our code. It will be required in the following transactions. Okay, let's add special roles. Let's trigger the second function. Finally, let's create our NFT. We need to trigger the third and last function. We have some problems with not enough gas set for the gas limit. By default, there is an estimation based on different factors like the length of the attribute's data, URL data, etc. It is often enough, but sometimes we must set a bigger limit. That is what we need to do here. I won't focus much on the calculations. Please read more about it in the docs. But it is good to know that you can change the built-in gas limit if you need to. Yep, and now it works okay. We are creating the NFT. As you can see in the Explorer, we have the same URLs here. We can check the preview of our image. If we want, we can also display the NFT in X Spotlight, the DevNet version. Okay, that's all. Please keep following us on social media and GitHub. There will be more such videos. Thanks. Until the next one.